that amazing intro. Welcome into the League of Extraordinary GMs podcast, episode number 10. I wasn't with you guys last week, and that means it was the greatest episode ever recorded, according to our text chat. So I won't take that too personally. Along with Chatham and Warren, of course, I am Eric. Some good news, bad news, personally for myself, sports world, and otherwise heading in to this particular episode. The good news is the Niners rolled. That's awesome. We'll talk more about that. This is not part of the podcast, but the Kings had a big win last night, and that's always big in my book. What kind of the bad aspect of it was I lost a heartbreaker to Nick on Sunday. I know tears all around the world from all the other GMs. Just so sorry for how this one went down. He had a couple of guys go off late, and I was a late loser. So it's better than being an early loser. Chatham, Warren, how are you guys tonight? Who wants to go?
I'll go. I'm an early loser. I texted our little group today about how fantasy football just sucks. You know, you invest an entire week and you're like, oh no, this is going to blah, blah, blah. And you start the wrong guy, and it really doesn't matter when you go 0 for 4 on a weekend in your 4 leagues, and one of them you're trying to lose, but then you're like, well, my quarterback put up 46 points. And Ross has put up 5. Yeah, I don't know. So anyway, fantasy football is heart crushing, and talking and arguing about it with you, I think, is going to be therapeutic. In a personal sports world, Eddie's team is now in a championship baseball game, so that's positive. So that's always a good thing.
And just for what you just said, Chem, that's why I don't play fantasy football.
I know. I don't know why I play.
Warren?
Yeah, this show is going to be a lot more sober compared to last Thursday. I mean, it is a Tuesday after all. But that was a lot of fun. I think we'll do that from time to time. Just have a few bourbons and let it rip. And yeah, apologize to myself the next morning for how much editing I have to do. Yeah. Non-football related, I got the Christmas lights up over the last 2 days. Nice. Not because we are the type of folks that decorate the house for Christmas in mid-November, but because in the Pacific Northwest, if it's 50 degrees and sunny anytime between late October to late November, you just go for it.
Yeah, you have to do it.
And all the neighbors walking by give you shit, and you're like, yeah, whatever. I'm going to be laughing at you when you're out here 2 weeks from now.
And it's colder and wetter. Yeah.
And then other than that, so this coming weekend is my wife's birthday, and the grandparents have offered to take the kids for a night, which we then guilt trip them into taking them for a second night. So this will be the first time ever that we've been without our children for 2 consecutive nights.
First of all, I love I thought I was big. And maybe I wasn't, we were just both drunk, but when I was doing the Kirk Cousins, take, and you're like, I don't understand. I was like, and then you're like, oh, head down. I was like, oh, Warren had a couple tonight. This is awesome.
Yeah, I was laughing as I was editing. I didn't edit that out at all. I left all that in there.
It was so good.
Oh, I get it. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm back. Okay, let's go. Kirk Cousins. Yep.
I know.
Yeah.
And
he's
then
gonna stay, and JJ's gonna be great.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and unless Dobbs is this thing, he's not this thing. But and then how was the rest of Northern Washington?
Sandwich was awesome. We have this routine where we go up to Bellingham, which is just north of Sandwich, and do the farmers market. And there's a really fun bookstore the kids love, and a great lunch spot. So we just hit our whole little routine on Saturday, and then came home and watched a nail biter of a Huskies game on Saturday. That first half was
dog poo.
Tough, man. And then the second half, they didn't allow a single point. So hopefully they can do that against Oregon State, but I'm a little nervous. I think Oregon State is going to be the toughest opponent until the Pac-12 championship, obviously.
Yeah. Is there going to be any Pac-12 teams that end up in the Final Four, and do they deserve to be?
So one thing I don't follow college football close enough to know, but when they set up the divisions in the Pac-12, it used to have to be a North and a South team. Is that this year as well, or did they?
I don't know. That's a good question, because Oregon and Washington are the 2 best teams. So
right. Right.
It would
Yeah.
almost
So
make
if
sense for a rematch would be awesome.
it
A
would be
rematch
awesome,
would be
but
awesome.
so if it is divisional, if it's north-south, then yeah, I think the Huskies are going to be in the playoff because if they beat the Beavers,
Right.
they
They would have
beat
to
the
beat
Beavers, beat
yeah.
the Cougs, beat who would be the Southern, who's leading
USC.
South? USC. Yeah, we beat them
Oh,
again.
they have like 4 or 5 losses.
Yeah. So to
Yeah, I
me,
think
that
SC's at
makes
4 now.
that's a much easier pass to get there. If it is Oregon and UW, and even if the Huskies do win out to get there, that's tough. I mean, that's gonna be a tough game. Let's say Oregon wins. I don't think either of them will go.
No. Big time no. Because I mean, Florida State, the thing to this is like if the Huskies have to beat the Ducks twice, the Ducks are top 16 both times they were beaten. Right. So, and who's Florida State played, right? Like the ACC's dog poo. Clemson's probably the second best team, maybe Duke. And Clemson has a couple good recent wins, but they also have 4 losses. But I actually think that this weekend was more significant in the fact that like Caleb Williams didn't step back up. He had a good first quarter. But I saw a recent, and who knows, these mock drafts are ridiculous, but I saw a recent mock draft on ESPN that had Marvin Harrison going first, which is fascinating because then it would also mean that the Bears would stick with Fields. And that would be incredible, right? So, but it had Marvin Harrison first. It had Marvin Harrison first, Caleb second, the offensive tackle, I forget his name, third, and then Drake May fourth. But yeah, anyway,
The Bears could still get. I mean, in theory, the Bears could. Are they still in the running to get the top 2 picks with Carolina's pick?
Yeah, I think they've locked up the 1, and then it's just whether or not they get the 2. I mean, because if they blow it the rest of the season, or Carolina does, right? Like Carolina has 1 win might be it. I mean, maybe 2. Yeah.
So back to your question, Ruck, about can a Pac-12 team make the playoffs? 2 things I just looked up. 1, yes, Oregon and Washington can play each other for the Pac-12 championship this year in Vegas. So that'll be a huge game.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Beavers are still in contention too, because if they can beat the Huskies, they've looked really strong, and that's going to be a tough call of who belongs there. And I don't really see all the details to the Oregon State's record, but if their conference record is better, then they will be there, right? Over the Huskies.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I was looking at is Michigan and Ohio State play each other on the 25th. So one of them is going to have a loss.
Yep.
So that might open the door back up. Anyway, I'd say, yeah, it's certainly possible.
Yeah. I guess they come down to would a 1-loss Michigan or a 1-loss Ohio State trump an undefeated Washington?
I don't think so. I don't think there's any chance.
Is there a chance that Michigan is disallowed, is like blocked?
No, I don't think so, because everything they do with because it's too much money involved.
Yeah.
The Big Ten just came in and said, Harbaugh, sorry, you can't finish out the regular season, but they don't want to take away one of the big money makers for a championship.
Well, and Michigan is suing the balls out of the NCAA, and so it may happen next year, right? Like it could be like a not even retroactive. It's like they follow up on it next year, but there's no way. I mean, Michigan's probably number 2 team in the country, so. Again, money-wise, they're not going to take him out of the playoff.
And then Harbaugh next year, if the hammer comes down, guess where he's going? Back to the NFL.
Back to the Raiders.
I don't know, man. People love Antonio Pierce. Anyway, so that was all ramblings, but let's get you to what we're going to expect tonight on this episode 10 edition.
That was ramblings.
That was fun. I can do that for the next 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Hey, it's our podcast. There ain't no schedule.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Keep it going. So this is going to be if we have time allows, especially a very Ruck-centric episode. So you guys are the fantasy ones that know a million times more about fantasy, but when it comes to the Niners. I think I know my stuff, so we'll talk about them, their resurgence a little bit. And then we're also going to do a Dynasty stock up and stock down, and then kind of get a 2024 rookie spotlight if we're into that. And then I've been contemplating a trade. I've got a guy out there that I'll throw around if we have time to talk about. And it's a big name with big legs, and he's hard to tackle. That's kind of an ambiguous, weird tease, but it's what I'm giving you. I'll give you a lot more right after this quick second intro. Hit it, Warren. The official beginning to episode number 10, and I get to talk about the Niners for a little bit, so that I'm very excited about that. Just beat the crap out of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Are the Jaguars even really good? I would say they're a good team, but kind of like the Cowboys. If they play another good team, they're not going to rise up to that expectations that they have against weaker teams. Of course, the Niners now, with Trent Williams back, Deebo Samuel came back, and the addition of the former Buckeye Chase Young coming back to team back up with Nick Bosa. And those guys looked amazing. I know the Jags offensive line isn't the greatest in the world, but they were able to put a lot of pressure on Trevor Lawrence. And then the guys in the middle, Hargrave was able to do well. Armstead was able to do well. And it kind of gave you the flashbacks to the 2019 team when Dee Ford was healthy. So you had the bookends with him and Bosa on one end, and you can't double team everybody. And that opens it up for a lot of the guys inside as well. Of course, Randy Gregory is now one of the defensive ends. He played well. Cleveland Ferrell got a sack. That's when you know it's going really well for the Niners, when the ex-Raider can get in there and do some things. A couple of concerns that I still have with the Niners is in their secondary. Do you guys, I know you're big fantasy guys, does the name Isaiah Oliver mean anything to you two? Does it ring a bell? You know who I'm talking about?
Negative.
So Isaiah Oliver, it was the Niners nickel cornerback for the first, well, what is this? They're now 6-3, 8 weeks of the season. He's a guy that came over with Steve Wilkes from Atlanta. Wilkes was like, I need this guy. He's amazing. So they signed him to a decently sized contract in training camp and preseason. Other guys played better than him, but they'd already gave him that contract, and they're not going to just give him that money for, cut him and bring somebody else along. He is a really, really good tackling cornerback. He's very good against the run. He is atrocious against the pass. And I believe at one point this season, he gave up 20 of 20 possible completions against the guys that he was covering in the slot, and that's just unacceptable. He's the one that gave up the one touchdown to the Cowboys. It seemed like essentially every week he would give up a big play. So what they did is they took him out, took Diamador Lenore, one of their corners, put him inside, and then brought back Ambry Thomas. I don't think Ambry Thomas is all that great. And the good news is for the Niners, there's Samuel Womack, and then their draft pick this year, Darrell Luter Jr., are both coming back off of, I believe, PUP, because it's not IR, but back off of PUP, so they're able to play or at least practice. So they'll figure that out. The right side of the line is still a big concern for me. The one thing that was kind of interesting in this game, and I'll get your guys' opinions on this right now, is the only Niner that traditionally scores that did not score in this game was Christian McCaffrey. So the Niners tried to force feed him at the very end, and I thought that was interesting. I haven't heard a lot of blowback from that from the NFL or the other guys, but they were winning by a lot, and they had one of their studs in there to try to get him. Was it kind of that Bush League thing to get McCaffrey that record-setting touchdown with however many in a row it would have been to break the record? I can't quite remember.
Would have been 18.
18. It would have been 18. So now he's tied at 17. To me, I was like, dude, no. I hope you get the record. That's great. But if you don't force it, because that is exactly something that Shanahan would do. Try to get the record. Hurt his leg on the 1 yard line or something. I mean, first of all, what did you think about them trying to get him the record, Chatham? And then was it the smart move from a potential injury standpoint?
Yeah, it's definitely the right move. I mean, it's an all-time record. And the Juice one, like I saw some stupid blowback from just talking heads that said he should have gone down on the 1 so that then CMC could go in. and then Purdy came out and said something, and Juice came out and said something, and they were both like, dude, I get it. You know, you're trying to win a football game. Like, and then I loved CMC's comment was something like, you're right, guys. I suck. Everyone else is good because they score touchdowns. And so, you know, I mean, I think that in anything, right? Like, let's say it's a triple double you're trying to score in the NBA and you're an assist short, you know, like you just throw the ball away 6 times to try to get 1 assist. I think it totally makes sense. And I'm here for it when you're winning 34-3 or whatever, right? So like very here for it then.
So what about Brett Favre taking a dive so that Reggie White could get the sack record? I recall that you didn't particularly like that instance. So how would that differ?
That's messed up, Warren.
I think that's collusion.
Like 10? I remember that well, actually. I was sitting watching the game with your dad at the house. I have since matured. Brett Favre did. So, you know, my 10-year-old self would say, you got to earn it. And then my 40-year-old self is like, dude, it's a career, man. Like, give that guy his due.
I think it was the right move. I'm really glad they went for it. And I think some folks on social media that are just trying to get attention will say bad things about that. But everybody I respect said, yeah, it was the right move. These records are important to these players. You absolutely got to put them in there. It actually pisses me off when coaches don't. When there's an obvious, clear opportunity for a player to get a prestigious record and they don't get that opportunity, that makes me more mad. Yeah. These are important. These are legacies for these guys, these numbers. So I'm glad they tried for it. I was definitely bummed they didn't get it.
Let me ask you guys this, and then we can move on to more fantasy-related topics. So the Niners are playing the Bucs on Sunday at home. That's a game that they should win. Of course, Tom Brady retired. They don't have to worry about that. Their defense isn't as good. If the Niners really want to be Super Bowl contenders, they need to handle business. Then, just a few days later, they have to travel up to Warren's area and play the Seahawks on Thursday night. They played the Seahawks on Thursday night last year. Brock Purdy didn't look all that great. The Niners ended up winning, but the game was a little bit closer than I think maybe it should have been. And then they get a week and a half off and then have the ultimate rematch with Philadelphia against the Eagles, and the Eagles are on a really big stretch. I think they have to go play Kansas City and then Dallas, and the Niners all kind of. Let's assume that the Niners win against the Bucs. What would be a satisfactory next 2 results? Going 1-1, maybe a win in Seattle, a loss to Philly, or win one or the other. I mean, I think the diehard really want to see them beat the Eagles, but they're still right there with the Seahawks in the NFC West. That's the game that you need probably more from that standpoint.
That seems to be the important takeaway, right? Is how close they are in the division standings, and I don't think at the end of the season they will be this close. But if the Seahawks beat them, then it may well be close. You can't lose that game in Seattle. You look at just the entire rest of the record right there. So there's 8 games left. Eagles, scary. Ravens at home, still scary.
But you got the Seahawks at home.
Rams at home at the end of the season. Like, that's going to be tough. And obviously the Seahawks matchups you can't sneeze at because it's a divisional opponent. But so 2.5 to 3 scary.
Yeah, that's 2.5.
But it feels like 4 to 5 wins. If as long as you operate your game plan, is very much in the cards.
Speaking of cards,
like 11 to 12 wins is where you're hoping to be.
Do you have any concern, since you mentioned cards, with Kyler Murray finally coming back? He's always been a guy that the Niners have struggled mightily against trying to sack. They have some bigger, more lumbering defensive linemen. I mean, at that point, do you have any concern about the Cardinals?
If the Niners lose to the Cardinals, they may as well just end their season on December 17th. No Christmas presents, just Like go in cryogenic sleep until next May. Everybody goes to mini camp, including the veterans, and you start over.
Yeah. So hitting both points. I think that the Seahawks are running on fumes, and I'm not even a little bit impressed. I mean, they had to have a comeback win at home against the Commanders. What's his penis? Gino looks terrible. They're not healthy in the running back position, and they don't have any idea how to use Charbonnet when Walker's not fully healthy. So I think they go in and curb stomp the Seahawks because I think that it matters so much to them. And then I think the two games that I've got that are like, I don't know. I mean, who knows who the Ravens are, right? Like they went out and just obliterated the league for 3 weeks and then lost at home to Cleveland. And that was kind of weird, like super weird. And then obviously the Eagles. And the Eagles will care a ton about that because it's a statement game for them where it's not really a statement game, I don't think, for the Niners. So, yeah, I agree there. And then I am all aboard the Kyler Murray train. Everything that everyone's talking about down in Arizona is video games are awesome and do them after you do your homework. Yeah. And I'm in. I think the dude is a stud. I've loved him since college. I traded stupidly for him because I love the guy. And he went out and put up a pedestrian 18 points in fantasy this week, but his first week back when he had some dog poo options. I'm in. If he beats the Niners, I don't know. I'm not that upset. I'm kind of like, ha. Video game guy wins.
It's the holiday season, so it's time for Elf on the Field.
Hey, Ruck, before you transition us off this topic, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Because I think you can explain this really well. I was trying to explain it well at a kid's birthday party this weekend. How did the Niners get Chase Young for only a 3rd-round pick?
Because he's a rental. Because at the end of the day, they're going to have – I mean, all these other – he has a big injury history, right? Mm-hmm. So unless you're a team that's like we're trying to win the Super Bowl right now like the Niners are, you don't want to give up a 3rd-round pick. And the reason why the Niners were able to, because it wasn't even their 3rd-round pick. It was a compensatory pick that you get for letting guys and coaches go. They also – their GM used to work with John Lynch, has a very good rapport with him. Some of the reports that I heard were like the Commanders wanted a 2nd and a 5th, and then John Lynch just kept hammering home like, hey, dude, this is a guy that's been injured. I don't know if we can pay him. You know, this is going to be a rental. We can't give you the farm for that. Some of the other teams that I heard that were involved were Baltimore, and then there was another
Jacksonville.
team. Jacksonville.
Yeah, I remember them after the game not getting him and getting crushed by him.
Yeah. There you go.
So he's in the 4th year of his contract. Washington declined his 5th year, so that option is not on the table. So he now becomes a free agent with the franchise tag eligibility, but would he play on a franchise tag or demand a contract? And yeah, is it even possible for the 49ers to pay someone like him with a backloaded, maybe you backload it after the Debo and Kittle contracts, you know, maybe it's like a low payout for the next couple of years, but then it jumps up to like 35 million a year in the back.
So, I mean, they're very good. Parag Maroth is the money guy for the Niners. And he does a really good job of manipulating these deals to make it very Niner friendly in the end. Well, here's the thing. If he is awesome the rest of the season and they go, man, our D-line is amazing, then do you go, okay, is he more important or is Brandon Ayuk?
Yeah.
Can we trade Debo Samuel? I think between Samuel, Ayuk, and Chase Young, if Chase Young assumingly plays very well the rest of the season, you can only have 2 of those guys.
Man, maybe we should just transition to topic 4. I mean, I've never heard a better segue. No, we'll save that for later.
I don't know.
Wait, is topic 4 notes for future shows? I'm lost.
Topic 4 is find Ruck a trade.
We'll get to that, and if we're not able to get to it, it's fine. We'll save it for another time. Real briefly before we go, what did you think about the ending to last night's game?
Oh my God, that's so silly.
It was so fun.
Believe that. It's the only game I watched yesterday. Only game. Oh, sorry. Only game I watched all weekend. I didn't mean yesterday. Only game. I had baseball, soccer all day.
I was just happy that there was a primetime game that was fun to watch.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's been just dog poo after dog poo every week. And yeah, I mean, not to get too deep in the weeds, obviously the Bills, turnovers, woof. Broncos looked competent. Bills defense doesn't look very good. Like, they have guys that hit hard. Like, every time Rapp or Poyer comes in like a missile after the running back is already down, when it's your running back like Javonte, I'm like, stop that. Stop. You're hitting my guy. He's on the ground already. They're vicious, but not very good. Did you see the analytics, the completion percentage probability on that Sutton touchdown throw from Russ? 3.2%. It's the lowest ever probability completion in the history of the analytics era.
I gotta see that. I gotta look that up.
Yeah. Anyway,
I will say there was also called. I mean, our wannabe best friends at Footballers had this one as the upset of the week, and I think it's kind of cool the way they did it, right? So Mike says, like, Jason's like egging him on, and Mike's like, dude, if you take away the 70-pointer against the Dolphins when everything was going wrong for the Broncos, they've had a decent defense. And if you look at their past month, they've actually had a top 6-7 defense. And the Bills, to what you're saying, have just trajectory the entire opposite way, where their defense has been one to target because they've been decimated by injuries. And so I actually called a buddy and put some money on it and was like, whatever, I'll just hit the line. And then after, I was like, damn it, I should have gone for the just straight up, which would have paid out bigger.
Winner.
Yeah. So anyway, I did make money on the line, but it was fun because I told Eddie before the game, we were sitting there watching the game, I'm like, we're rooting for the Broncos. And he's like, why? That's so dumb. And first two possessions, he's like, Dad, you're the smartest guy I know.
All right, let's move into our Dynasty stock up, stock down segment. And when we talk about stock up, there's literally nobody else in the NFL whose stock could possibly be higher. For a rookie to get MVP consideration,
I'm turning off my screen.
For the great D'Amico Ryans, the quarterback whisperer, he goes from a DC to a quarterback whisperer. Already the greatest Ohio State quarterback to ever play in the NFL, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. CJ Stroud.
Yeah, Warren's got plenty to say about this crapola topic.
So after last weekend, the 50 burger he dropped, or 2 weekends ago, whatever, I reached out to Cody Carpentier, who used to be the number 2 guy at Player Profiler, who kind of went off and is doing his own thing now. Because Chatham and I are in a dynasty league with Cody Carpentier and Matt Kelly, the founder of the Roto Underworld and Player Profiler, because we're patrons. We contribute to their effort. And so we're in a patron league with those 2 hosts. And in the rookie draft in that dynasty league this offseason, which we've already talked about this, but we got to reset the table.
No, you're right. We should just keep leading into it.
We had the fourth overall pick. Was it it was the 4th.
I might be wrong. I thought it went. You're right. It was 4th because it was Bijan, Gibbs, JSN 4th.
Yep. Yeah. So we had the 4th overall pick in the rookie draft, and this is a 2 QB league. It's not even super flex. So QB's insanely valuable. And at the time, our QBs are Deshaun Watson, Kenny Pickett, Baker Mayfield.
really strong.
Need a quarterback. We're like, we need a quarterback, right? We got to hit. We have to hit. And so the draft goes, Podfather takes Bijan at the 101. Some other patron takes A-Rich at the 102.
Yeah.
Cody Carpentier takes Jordan Addison at the 103. So we're up. We have the choice. Bryce Young, CJ Stroud. Either one. So I put all the pressure on Chatham. I said, Chatham, you make the pick. You make the pick. You go ahead. So Chatham was on Bryce. I was on CJ Stroud.
It wasn't close either.
Yeah, it wasn't close. We spent months debating this topic.
Yeah.
Fiercely.
Yep.
Like angry little people words coming from me, like dumb words about the S2 test coming from Chatham.
Yep.
So I let Chatham make the pick, took Bryce Young. So anyway, fast forward. So after that 50 burger from CJ Stroud, I private message Cody Carpentier and I said, can you just drop into our league chat just some massive hate about how dumb we are for taking Bryce Young over CJ Stroud? So he drops in there,
I did not know this.
The league knows. And he just says, I cannot believe you guys took Bryce Young over CJ Stroud. And that everybody's eyes in the league chat are like, what did
there were like 8 people, yeah.
So
and I think what my response was Warren like he's not finishing it. He lights me up. And then Warren's like, yeah, that was my league mate. That was
I know he did mess it up.
Yeah, that was my co-coach. And so then I just write back, what kind of co-coach sells out his own teammates?
Yeah, I asked Cody specifically to burn Chatham, but he just called us out in general. So I had to clarify.
It was very good. It was very good. I would say that you don't need to fast forward quite so far linearly or chronologically. You could just fast forward to the very first training camp practice. we saw Bryce. It's like, I can't see the guys. You're so tall. I don't know where they play, and you are.
He's pretty tiny.
Ball sack.
He's taller than Kyler Murray.
No, he's not.
No,
he's
not.
2 inches shorter. We've been through this. That was the
shorter.
whole point.
He is literally the shortest one ever.
I kept being like, Kyler Murray comp.
Russell
he's less than 5'11"
taller than him.
How tall is he? He's not even 5'9".
No, he's 5'11".
Kyler Murray's 5'9".
Kyler Murray's 5'11". Bryce Young's 5'9".
Oh yeah, sorry. Yes.
I don't know. I don't think Kyler Murray's 5'11".
Bryce Young's that short, so we're just going to add to how much shorter Bryce
Kyler
Young
Murray
is.
also has like 50 pounds.
Yeah. Bryce
he's 5'10", excuse me.
Bryce
in
Young
cleats.
is
5'10", probably 210 pounds.
In cleats.
You know what he looks like? He looks like a baseball player.
He does. He should transfer over. Giants need an outfielder.
No, he's the A's draft. The A's drafted him. He'll be the Las Vegas A's player in a couple of years.
Good God.
I don't know how much of the Texans you guys are even paying attention to or watching these games.
Just
or how much of that Bengals games you got to see this week.
I got to see nothing. But looking at the scoreboard.
My God. He's got the complete package. The dude is a baller.
Yep. Yes.
He makes all the throws that you dream of your quarterback making. I really think that, it's still pretty unlikely, but he could be the first rookie MVP since Jim Brown in 1959.
So I saw this here, and I was
dropping that knowledge.
I was very offended by the hot take because it's dumb and there's no chance. And then I started going through it on my fingers, right? Like, all right, well, Mahomes. Yeah, no, that's not a given. Allen, no, he's out actually. Nope. He was the go-to, That's probably not going to happen. And so then is it like
Jalen Hurts
is the most boring great player in the league right now? And then it's like, well, Burrow's reclamation, right? Because they were 0-3 and they were terrible, and then they lost last week.
Lost to him.
And so I'm sitting here thinking about it, I'm like, do I need to find out how to put $100 on this 2,000? Like, it seems like
I mean, so Stroud, depending on the book, Stroud and and Goff are both right around plus 3,000. And for retrospect, both of these guys are like plus 12,000 at the start of the year.
It's not a bad call. I mean, I put at 1,500, I put $12, $12.50 on Purdy. So that's gone. So it seems not.
It's still an outside chance, but yeah.
I think if the Niners can run the table or lose maybe one more game, Purdy's still
They'd have to run the table.
Do you guys know the Texans' remaining schedule?
Yeah, I have it right here.
Yeah, Jaguars, Broncos, Jets, Titans, Browns, Titans.
Yeah, you skipped Arizona.
Arizona has to win.
Okay, so after they play Arizona,
their hardest game is
Cleveland
at the Jets.
Oh, I think it's Cleveland.
Cleveland at home.
Well, yeah, but Cleveland's defense is. I mean, Cleveland just
is it better than the Jets' defense?
I mean, I think the difference is that Cleveland's offense isn't a bottom five.
Yeah, those are the two, though. You're right. Yeah. I mean, it's Cleveland at home
and Jets for real win 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, they're 5 and 4.
6.
They could be 10-7
easily.
They could, win that division. Then they have a home game against the Bengals.
Hey, somebody needs to move out of. I'm gonna make this bet.
Beat Burrow again.
I'm gonna make this bet right now. Actually,
I don't know, man. If he takes that team to the AFC Championship, I got a hard time not giving this kid the MVP. Let's not forget that they won 7 games in the last 2 years combined.
Yeah. Also, to what Ruck said,
D'Amico.
Yeah. QB whisper.
Two great QB whisper.
QB whisper.
You said it. I didn't say
it. From stud DC to quarterback guru. We ready to move on to back to the Jaguars guy?
I guess.
All right. So
can I get 20 on Stroud for MVP?
Smart. The Niners did a really good job of containing Travis Etienne this past weekend. I think he basically hit his average around 3.9 yards per carry, and the Jags just sucked after that. What do you think about, he's in the stock up category, not necessarily for last game, but I mean, is he somebody that they're going to keep giving the rock to and hoping that he can keep up that pretty decent yards per carry?
Go ahead, Chad.
Well, I was going to say, actually, his yards per rush attempt is not impressive. It's more how ridiculous his touchdown rate is right now. And it is interesting when you look at, like, I mean, I guess it's not ridiculous. It's not.
It was over that 3 game span.
It was over the 3 games. So he has come back down to earth. Yeah. So he has come back down to earth. But saying that, I mean, I had him in a keeper league before, and it's a auction draft, and I had him for $20, and instead I kept some wiener face. And it is really cool to see these guys who come back from injuries like this that you're rooting for, Javonte, a Breece Hall, and Etienne. I mean, a Cam Akers at the end of last season. And so, I mean, I do think that the North is not very strong. So I think that he can keep it up, and he's a league winner for sure because of that. And I was just trying to look up his games the rest of the season. I didn't get to it fast enough, but I don't think it's that hard the rest of the season. So, I mean, again, he's averaging the last 5 games. He's 3.9 against the Niners, 3.3 against Pitt, 3.8 against New Orleans, 3.1 against Indy, but he had 2 against New Orleans, 2 touchdowns, 2 2 touchdowns against Indy, 2 touchdowns against Buffalo. Against Buffalo, he put up a huge game, 5.2. But he just is their guy. Like, they don't really have a lot. Zay Jones has been hurt a bunch. So it really does seem like, they check down to him a ton, and he's touchdown time. Where, like, I would rather have him than Bijan if I'm trying to win this year, because Bijan's a 20s guy. And it seems like when they want to score a touchdown, they're like, ETN, it's time.
Oh, I'd absolutely rather have ETN than Bijan this year.
Yeah.
And so they obviously looked bad against the Niners, and they had a bye week last week. So if people forget how good ETN was and you can go get him in redraft, like, I absolutely would.
Yep.
They've got weeks 14 and 15. They got Cleveland and Baltimore, but only, week 15 would be a potential playoff matchup. But 16 and 17, Tampa Bay, Carolina, run it. And it's, it's the pass catching, right? He's on pace for 80 targets, 60 receptions, over 500 yards in the passing game to go along with his on pace for, I don't really like the pace of his attempts. Honestly, he's on pace to go over 300 attempts.
Right.
That's too much work, in my opinion. I don't like when my running backs get that much work, but I do like those passing game numbers.
Yeah. But I mean, he's the man, and his stock is up high. And barring what Warren is, knock on wood, not suggesting in an injury, I mean, if this is what their offense looks like this year, you just hope they continue to get better as Trevor Lawrence gets better, and as DJ Chark, and you hope you bring Ridley into the fray the next year, and it's a bad division anyway, right? So, like, stock's high. Dynasty for sure. Stock is about as high as it's going to get for ETN.
And that's what we're focusing on, right? Like, we're talking about guys who are rising in their dynasty ranking, not just the week to week explosion of points. Like, we debated over whether we should talk about CD right now.
Yep.
And we're not going to, but Etienne, he's climbed the board of the running back rankings. Like, he's back into that top 5 conversation for sure. And he wasn't at the start of the year because he had a Liz Frank injury last year, which depressed his value. Those are things we have to keep in mind.
So moving on to our next guy, we've got DeAndre Swift and one of our stock up guys. Warren, can you explain why?
He's happy. So I think it just comes down to that. Like, I don't think he liked being in Detroit. And he's, people talk about how the Niners got a freebie with Chase Young. The Eagles got a freebie in DeAndre Swift. I think, what they give up, like a 5th round pick for him in the draft last year?
Yep.
As soon as that went through, I was so mad. Like, why did they get a free DeAndre Swift? Why can't we have a free DeAndre Swift? Let's give him a 3rd. Come on. This guy's amazing.
Yeah.
He just wasn't happy, and he didn't mesh well with that coaching staff. And I think that's all there is to it. I don't think this guy ever should have had his stock decline in Dynasty, because he's a triple threat. He has it all.
Yep.
And the stock is up on this guy. So some of these we took preseason and then current numbers. So beginning of the season, he was ranked to number 60 overall. Now he's up to number 19.
Yep.
And he was number 24 running back. And now he's up to running back 11. Whoops, I just hit my little chair plunger. That was exciting.
Nice. Good work, sir.
And you remember who they thought?
Yes, I was just going to say that. There were so many, all our best balls. I thought that everybody who took Swift was a dingus. I was like, all right, I'm going to take Gainwell and Penny just day after day, because the right take was the right Eagles running back.
Yeah, we just all got it wrong.
And it was all wrong because it was that's a fair narrative going into the season that Swift was out. I mean, he just didn't have it. That league wasn't right for him, because how else are you supposed to know after a year and a half where they go to, Jamar Williams? I was like, really? I mean, this guy, he's a the funniest guy to interview and phenomenal on in his like pregame when he like does the chainsaw thing, but like they chose him over Swift, and so it made sense. Like maybe there's just something missing, maybe he doesn't have it, whatever it is. But the guy is a freak. I mean, to go from, like you said, your numbers 60 to 19 on the season and high 20s, low 30s to the RB11. And I'm not sure, like I'm looking at this list right now. I'm not sure how many guys I would take over him. But like I wouldn't take Eckler over him. Right? Age-wise.
In Dynasty?
In Dynasty.
No, I'd absolutely rather have Swift.
Exactly. And right now, I wouldn't take Pollard over him. I don't think that I would take Javonte over him.
Bijan, Brees, Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey,
Gibbs,
Etienne,
Walker.
I don't know if I would take Achane over him.
I know. I'm still Walker's before Achane. Barkley.
He's right around RB7 in my book right now.
Yeah, I have him at 8 behind Walker. And then Barkley's probably right there with him, depending on what happens with Barkley, right? So like, it's just cool. It's also easy to root for a guy who's coming back from that, just getting totally outs by a coaching staff, and comes back and it's like killing the game. I mean, just took like it could be these guys, and he's like, I got it, dude. You sit down.
So these next two that we're going to talk about are very, very personal. So on a guy that I could at the moment have on my team, but I chose not to. After Nick Chubb went down, it's like, all right, who's going to step up for Cleveland? And Jerome Ford has been that guy.
Yeah, I don't know. I tried.
You owned them.
I tried. I liked him in all the spots except Dynasty, which is kind of funny, right? Because, we have no idea what's going to happen next year. I haven't heard anything. We haven't heard anything on Chubb in a while, but it sure as crap seems bad. And it's a good football team. The Cleveland football team is a good football team right now. And so he's a league winner for sure this year. It's just fascinating that we don't know what's going to happen past probably like game 6, 7 of next year. Sorry. When Chubb is probably healthy, it's probably going to be a split. But Ford, whatever. I was stupid and threw a flyer. The flyers in the 4th round are really fun. It's the Bryce Youngs and the CJ Strouds in the 1st that are really hard. But the flyers in the 4th round are really fun. And I spend most of my time doing that because it's like, which guy could surpass a guy? And you're looking at Chubb and you're thinking, he touches the ball, to Warren's point, 310 times a season. Eventually something bad's going to happen. And so that was the reason I threw I think it was a 3rd round, like a 310 or something like that at him. And then, it's great to turn a 310 into a 1st round draft pick. So, but I think he's definitely a league winner this year. I just don't know how stock high is realistic going forward in Dynasty.
Yeah. So I was trying to remember, did you guys had a trade agreed to? It was like Eric's 1st, which would be a late 1st, assumed at the time.
Yeah.
For Jerome Ford, and I think Chatham was given back a 3rd. Yeah. And Albert came in and like blew everyone up. It's like, that is a terrible bullshit trade. So Albert starts working Eric. He's like, I got something way better for you.
On a Sunday night.
And here's where you transition to our next topic.
We gave all the love to the Texans recently, but it sure as hell wasn't because of their running back.
Yeah.
So the guy that I ended up getting is Dameon Pierce instead of Jerome Ford. In hindsight, that was a dumbass move, and I got swindled by Albert. Apparently, had the promise handed to me by Chatham, and it didn't work out that way. So that's how we transition into our stock down guys. The first guy being Dameon Pierce, because his team is doing well. His quarterback is doing amazing, especially for a rookie, possible MVP. But the running back position with Pierce has not been quite as adequate.
Yeah, there's a couple things to talk about there. One, woof, that sucks.
Yeah.
Two,
sorry, buddy.
That's why I don't play fantasy football.
Two, like, the way Albert came in and like, no, absolutely, this is better for you. This one's a good lesson, and just like, I mean, obviously now at this point in time, it's absolutely not.
Yeah.
Who knows still over time. At that point in time, Dameon Pierce was valued higher, quite a bit higher than Jerome Ford.
Yeah.
But we do have to remember that, things change and values change. And, Ford was producing numbers, so his value wasn't really climbing much. And at that time, Pierce was still assumed to be sort of a bell cow lead back, even though to start the season, he was splitting basically 50% of the snaps right out of the gate with Devin Singletary. And then now over the course of several weeks, I mean, I will throw out the last few weeks because Pierce did get hurt. So he has an ankle injury and he's been out the last 2 weeks, and he kind of battled through it for the 2 games before that. But I wrote down some of these notes even before any of this happened. And I remember hearing something out of some post-game press conference with the Texans coaches, which was essentially D'Amico Ryans brought over Bobby Slowick to run the offense in Houston and to run the Shanahan style zone run scheme, which requires explosive single direction speed to get outside, to hit an outside lane and go. And that's not who Dameon Pierce is.
Right.
It doesn't mean he's bad. Like, he would probably be fine on the Browns. Throw Dameon Pierce on the Browns with 20 carries a game. I bet he'd be better than Ford. But on this offense, that also doesn't seem to throw the running backs a lot, and he doesn't have the speed to hit those holes. It's not working. Fortunately, he's still only 23, so I wouldn't say his career is over. But he's definitely not going to help your team much, I don't think, the rest of this season, unless he heals up and Singletary gets hurt and it's just him and they don't have a choice.
But like you were saying, I mean, this is dynasty, with the idea being that if he really doesn't produce, fine, they'll trade him for a 6th-round pick, and then he can end up in a situation where he looks a little better.
I don't know, man. I think part of it though is like, there is the adage, or a pretty well respected concept that anyone drafted, any running back drafted in the 4th round. It doesn't really matter how well they produce even the first year. The draft capital is so small. They didn't cost anything. It was not a big deal. It's hey, milk him for what he's worth and move on, because there is no real trade value there, right? Like, it just doesn't make sense to invest more fully in this. He's a who's the Harris guy? He's the guy who was cut today from the Jets. He's
Michael Carter.
Michael
you think
Carter.
He's that low? You think Pierce is?
I do, man. I just think, like, to your point, like, would you rather next year have Blake Corum or Dameon Pierce?
Well, definitely Corum, but that's not fair. Rookies get a huge bump.
But I'm saying those people come into the league every year. So, I mean, they put they replace Pierce with Singletary. Singletary has gone off 2 games in a row. Like, Pierce isn't showing that he is worth the investment, and he is financially irrelevant to the team anyway, right? Like Ruck was talking about the cornerback that they brought over.
Well, yeah. let's be careful because again, he did hurt his ankle. So I don't think he's gone to 0 touches solely based upon Singletary's outplayed him. I think he got hurt. So I don't think he's done with this team. And they don't have a lot of draft capital next year.
Right.
So he could very well still be a 50-50 timeshare next year in Houston.
Sure, but if we're talking stock up, stock down, he came into the season at what?
Oh, it's stock down for sure. But
Yeah.
I think you just went a little too far.
I'm saying he's stock 20. He's top 20.
You called him
year.
Michael Carter. Like that's where I was like, no, he's not. Michael Carter is cut. I don't think
Carter's in his 4th year. Cut. I think we fast forward 2 years and you're saying goodbye, Dameon Pierce.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't project I don't need my running backs more than 2 years at a time.
You should give me a Bijan then. That's what I just heard you say.
All right, let's move ahead in this and talk about guys who are currently playing on Saturday who will potentially, at some point end up playing on Thursdays, Sundays, and Monday nights. And this is one of our favorite segments of the week. Chatham's Rookie Spotlight. Chatham, who are the guys that are currently in college making $4 million in NIL deals, making less money in the NFL next year?
So again, so just to rehash, they're really like, it's kind of cool. They're like, it's fun to look at this stuff and see like projected first rounds, and they're saying anywhere from 6 to 8 first round wide receivers go off the board, which would be 8 would be an all-time record. But so Marvin Harrison Jr., and again, it's almost a disservice for us not to highlight how incredible he is, but it doesn't really matter because, we don't do this a lot. So he's incredible. And then typically it's Malik Neighbors at the 2, typically at a Florida State. And again, we sort of, not like we didn't really comp him. But you're looking at a person that people think is going to fit in that JJ Chase. Nobody's saying he's that good, but like that kind of. And then the third guy is where it starts to separate a little bit more. And so I looked at Keon Coleman out of FSU. And last week we talked about our homoerotic dreams, and we cut the tall, big, handsome guy in Higgins, and Keon Coleman fits the Higgins mold. He is enormously large. He is 6'4", 215, still super young. He is the most out of Florida State. And then now they don't, the ACC does play some SEC teams, but they don't play. He doesn't burn anybody in any of the leagues off the line. But then he did play against LSU. And when he did the first game of the season, they lined him up oddly kind of in the slot. And the idea was it put a weaker DB against him or a linebacker against him who just had zero chance to go up and get it. And the thing is, we talk about Huge and how Huge wins 0 contested balls. Coleman wins every contested ball, and it is really phenomenal. He's a guy who goes up and gets a ball in that splash zone, in that 20-yard zone, and comes out with it. Now there's zero there's 0 yards after catch. But if you're looking for a guy like Mike Evans for the next 15 years, it could also be that guy. And so saying that, going through this kind of quickly, the Neighbor tape is more fun because he beats guys not only off the line, but he also, when he wins the ball, he does stuff with it that's so much fun. But Coleman was the guy who when a quarterback needed help, he threw the ball near Coleman and Coleman made the play, and he didn't drop the ball. I think I watched 3 different games. I watched a Miami game, or not Miami. I didn't watch the whole game, but I watched a Miami highlight and an LSU highlight, and they were playing some dog poo Division III team. And it was really fun. Now, who knows how he's going to do, because they didn't have him like with Neighbors. I had him against Georgia DB, who is slated as a first-round draft pick. They didn't have the same thing, or I couldn't find it for Coleman. but he really did just seem to out athlete every single player. And so it looks like a Higgins, Mike Evans. He looks like a 105, 106 pick. And honestly, that's the best part is after the 1, 2, 3, because it's probably going to go Harrison, quarterback, given how great these two quarterbacks are. I mean, it's wide open. I mean, you have Travion Henderson, and then you have like 8 wide receivers that could fill the rest of the first round.
Is that it?
Unless Warren watched any of it.
No, I don't have much to contribute yet on the rookies. I did a little bit last week on Travion and Rocket, but
Red Rocket.
I'm contending, so I'm still paying attention to NFL.
Yeah, I'm not.
You're not?
I'm not even a little bit.
I'm gonna dig in deeper February, March.
Yeah.
But I'll do some more research before we call this show quits. And if I'm assuming we'll probably take a break from this in the off season.
I don't know. It's fun.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Wait, I don't know what he just said.
Just here so he doesn't get fined.
Yeah, basically.
I love Skittles.
So here's the deal. I'm going to skip my final topic that I was going to do personally. I have a player on my team that I would like to trade. I will be dropping that in group chat a little bit later on this week. So that's what they call a tease in the industry, because I don't want to ruin any stock here, because this guy, I'm demanding 3 first-round picks. Like, let's just put it right there, or best offer. Maybe somewhere in between. All right, guys, we're an hour and 5 minutes into the episode 10 podcast, so we'll call that good until episode 11. Thanks so much for watching the League of Extraordinary GMs podcast. It's been fun. It's been real. And next time we'll see you, we'll be talking about Thanksgiving and all the stuff that's coming up on that particular Thursday and everything else around the league. All right, guys. Bye.
Good night.